Think about this. On just another summer morning back in 1945, our world changed forever. A city was literally erased in a flash of light, and humanity stumbled into a new and, frankly, terrifying new age. This is the story of that decision, how we got there, and the questions that still haunt us.
You know, to really get a grip on what happened, we can't just look at it from 30,000 feet with presidents and generals. No, we have to start on the ground with the ordinary people who thought it was just another Monday. Okay, so picture this. It's a beautiful, sunny morning in Hiroshima. Yeah, there was an air raid siren earlier, but it was just a single American plane flying over, so everyone got the all clear. People started to relax, kids were on their way to school, people were heading to work. It was, for all anyone knew, a completely normal day. And then, at 8:15 a.m., everything changes. A single B-29 bomber, they called it the Enola Gay, shows up high in that perfect blue sky. From its belly, one single object drops. Its codename was Little Boy, and for 45 silent seconds, it just fell towards the city below. When it finally detonated, about 1,900 feet above the city, the temperature on the ground instantly hit an almost unbelievable 4,000 degrees Celsius. Let that sink in. That is literally hotter than the surface of the sun. And in just one blinding, terrible flash, an estimated 80,000 people were gone. Just gone. Many were simply vaporized where they stood, leaving nothing, and I mean nothing, behind, but a shadow burned into the pavement. In a single instant, a vibrant city was turned into a graveyard. It's almost impossible to wrap your head around that kind of horror, right? And it brings us to the big question we're going to tackle in this explainer. How? How on earth did humanity get to a point where a weapon like this could not only be created, but actually used on people? So this wasn't just some random, out-of-the-blue event. The bombing of Hiroshima was really the last, most devastating domino to fall in a chain reaction that had been building for years. To get why it happened, we've got to look at how all those other dominoes were set up first. So let's rewind a bit. The whole thing kicks off in Europe in '39. But over in the Pacific, Japan is on the move, building its own massive empire. The US tries to put the brakes on by cutting off their oil, and that was a huge deal, like 80% of their supply. Japan's answer? Bam! Pearl Harbor, December 7th, 1941. And just like that, America is in the war. The fighting that followed was just brutal. Fast forward to 1945, to the Battle of Okinawa. The sheer ferocity of it convinced American leaders that Japan would literally fight to the last man. They had this death before surrender mindset that was just impossible to ignore. So just to be clear on who was who, you had two main sides in this whole thing. You had the Axis powers, that's mainly Germany, Italy, and Japan, and fighting them were the Allied powers, which included Great Britain, France, the Soviet Union, and of course, the US after '41. All right, so by the middle of 1945, the war in Europe is over. Germany and Italy are done. But Japan is still fighting, all alone. And here's the twist. America had a secret ace up its sleeve, a new kind of weapon that was about to land a brand new president with an absolutely terrible, world-changing choice. They called it the Manhattan Project. And when I say top secret, I mean it was on a scale that's hard to even imagine. We're talking $2 billion back then, and 130,000 people all working to unlock the power of the atom. The crazy part? It was so secret that when Harry Truman became president after Roosevelt died, he had no idea it even existed. So, July 1945, they test the first one out in the New Mexico desert. And the guy in charge, the brilliant scientist J. Robert Oppenheimer, watches this terrifying mushroom cloud boil up into the sky. And all he can think of is this line from an ancient Hindu scripture. Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds. I mean, can you imagine? He knew right then and there what they had just unleashed on humanity. Okay, so now President Truman has this unbelievable power at his fingertips, and he's got two options on the table. Both of them are awful. Option A, invade Japan the old-fashioned way, with troops on the ground. His generals told him it could cost 1 million American lives and millions more Japanese. Or, option B, use this new atomic bomb to try and force Japan to surrender immediately, saving those American lives. So the Allies gave Japan one last warning. It's called the Potsdam Declaration, and the message was simple. Surrender right now, unconditionally, or you will face prompt and utter destruction. But here's the thing. Japan's leaders had no clue what that really meant. They ignored it, and that sealed their fate. So on August 6th, the first bomb hits Hiroshima. The city is gone, and you'd think that would be it, right? But Japan still doesn't surrender. It's shocking. So just 3 days later, on August 9th, a second bomb goes down. This one's even more powerful. They called it Fat Man, and it hits the city of Nagasaki. Another 40,000 people are killed in an instant.
Now, with 2 of their cities turned to ash and the terrifying possibility of more to come, Emperor Hirohito finally steps in. On August 15th, he does something he's never done before. He speaks directly to his people on the radio and announces Japan's surrender. And just like that, World War II is finally over. So, the guns fall silent. The war is done. But a totally different kind of conflict was just getting started. A debate that rages to this day. Was using the atomic bomb a necessary evil to end the war, or was it a horrific, unforgivable atrocity? This is where it gets really complicated, and people still argue passionately about it. First, was the bomb even necessary? I mean, Japan's navy was at the bottom of the ocean, their air force was wiped out, their economy was crippled. Some historians say they were about to surrender anyway. Then there's this other idea. Was the real message for the Soviet Union, a way for America to say, hey, look what we have, right at the start of the Cold War? And what about the ethics? Over 95% of the people killed were civilians. Does that make it a war crime? And maybe the most cynical question of all, why use 2 different types of bombs? One was uranium, the other plutonium. It's fueled this argument that maybe, just maybe, Japan was being used as a real-world testing ground.
And look, this isn't just hindsight. These questions were being asked right then, at the highest levels. President Truman's own chief of staff, Fleet Admiral William Leahy, he did not mince words. He said, and I'm quoting here, the use of this barbarous weapon at Hiroshima and Nagasaki was of no material assistance in our war against Japan. He basically said we'd stooped to an ethical standard of the barbarians of the Dark Ages. And that really leaves us with this huge, chilling question that's just as relevant today as it was in 1945. The Manhattan Project was, without a doubt, a mind-blowing scientific achievement, but it delivered a power our ethics just weren't ready for. So when our technology outruns our moral wisdom, who ends up paying the price? It's a question that started with a flash of light over Hiroshima, and one we're all still trying to figure out today.